Hey guys, welcome back. This is Priscilla. This is Pure Lunacy. Welcome. This is my wonderful, wonderful friend, Malcolm. We've known each other for well over a decade. Again, we will not say what our ages are.
No, confidential.
Malcolm, do you want to introduce yourself to Pure Lunacy and tell us a little bit about what you do and just say hello?
Yeah. Yes, awesome. Thank you. Okay, number one, thank you, Pri. I really do appreciate it. My name is Malcolm. I'm just a normal guy trying to find himself in this world, changing along with the world changing. I hold a steady job. I try to be a contributing part to the society, and I just think that it's more people like you, Pri, more people like me, more people that are just normal people that aren't talking heads that need to, have a platform to be able to speak a little bit of logic into this pure lunacy. So yeah, but no, I mean I'm just a humble man. That's about it. That has lived a very fun life. I will say that.
And you, yeah,
that's I don't want to give them too much, but you definitely were there somewhere in it. Somewhere
in the fun. Oh man. So Malcolm, you actually reached out to me and you're like, hey, I want to talk. And I will say this, I have reached out to people and I've had people reach out to me to talk on Pure Lunacy. And sometimes when I reach out to people, they don't want to talk, or maybe they are not comfortable talking. Tell me why you wanted to talk. What's on your mind? What's the Pure Lunacy going on in your perspective and what's going on in the world?
I mean, I think honestly, it's I blame a lot of what's happening in this world now, in this culture, on a simplified version of the internet. I think that the internet has caused a massive wave of instant microwave culture that we live in, and I think that trying to share your opinions and try to find some kind of middle ground for conversation through any kind of text on a status or comments or a tweet, it's not viable and it's not sustainable. So I think that really I've had a lot of people reach out to me and want to talk privately about things that are happening, the George Floyd thing and BLM and Trump and politics now, whatever it is. And I think that I take pride in the fact that they feel comfortable to do that with me. But I think it's important that it comes from someone who looks like me, that I'm able to give other people a perspective of providing a safe place for them to speak.
Right.
A safe place for them to share their ideas and opinions and not feel judged and not feel, aggravated with aggression as a response, and to be able to talk things out in a very personal level, but not take things very personal, because we need to disarm ourselves to have a conversation. And I think that is when we don't, that we are automatically on the defensive. And I just want to be able to share a platform with you as someone who has been not only trained and educated, but naturally does that. You naturally want to find a very cause and effect way of solving a problem or addressing something. And I think that is something that's missing, especially in the social media world. So, So I mean, and to be a part of your podcast journey is definitely something that it's a perk for me. I can be like, hey, I've been on Pure Lunacy, so there you go.
Absolutely. We can take this nationally.
That's the goal.
Yes. No, I definitely agree. And one of the things that I regularly post on, and people find it weird, but I post against cancel culture. I find it to be so toxic, and and we see it just in like comments on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and somebody says, what is this? And people just completely go keyboard warrior on them. And there's no space for anything other than this is my right, and if you're not in my right, you're wrong, and I'm going to chop your head off with my keyboard sword.
Yeah.
I detest it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that people approach you on a lot of different topics. People do the same to me. What's one of the topics that, really comes to mind whenever you take into consideration the people that do approach you?
I think I guess that's an A and B for me, because what typically has started it was the defacing or the deplatforming of the Confederacy history of America. And then that kind of like slides into B of like an overall bullet point of racism. So I mean that's typically where the conversation goes. And I think that the biggest reason why is oftentimes when people are doing that, they're acting in a way that they don't understand is actually something that they're unwilling to admit. Like, you reached out to me and you wanted to ask me. Well, you did that for a number of reasons, but it's mainly because of the fact that you thought that I was going to be someone who could put it in a sense that wouldn't judge you, because you don't want to automatically get in the defensive. But you're reaching out because you truly think within your heart of hearts that you don't know, because I think you really do know that you can't know. It's typically people of other races. I've been approached by Asian Americans. I've been approached by Hispanics. I've been approached by white Americans as well. And I think that it's very telling that they're doing that because they know that they can't know from my perspective. Mm-hmm. And so once you made that effort, I think that it's when you finally acknowledge, you know what, I can't know. So that's the first step. If you understand that you can't know, then you would be more able and willing to accept knowledge. Because the only way we can accept knowledge in this world is to accept that we don't know it. And so I think that has been really the thing that, because that's been a consistent thread for the past 3 months, has been the George Floyd thing, and then just like all kind of things of racism and things. And a lot of people agree with some of it. A lot of people don't agree with some of it. So I try to put a little bit of balance into my perspective without coming out being, obviously over aggressive or completely slanted towards one side. Because a lot of things that get mistaken in discourse or this world that we live in is that duality is a thing in life, and it's a common thing in life. Two things can be the same at once. Does that mean that you can discount them or hold more value towards one than the other? That's your right and that's your choice. But to say that it's not there, to say that it doesn't exist, it's yin and yang for a reason. So I try to do that through all my discourse, but I think that I feel very privileged that people reach out to me and they want to actually talk about it.
Right. And I do know that the topics of the day are very contentious. They are extremely contentious. So the fact that you have the opportunity to bridge that communication gap to different parts of our communities, and not everybody has that opportunity. And with that opportunity, there's a privilege of having that relationship with people to have that conversation. At any point, do you think it's gotten a little contentious? I'll say this. It has been contentious for me with BLM, and some of the comments that I've made. People have assumed that it was an outright attack. So how dare you have an opinion that is opposite? You're not part of the movement. You're part of the problem. And I've stood by what I've said, and I'll stand by it every day, all day. It's a hill I'm willing to die on, because I don't believe that any movement should go without critique or self-reflection. But have you faced any of those moments where it may have gotten contentious?
Yeah, I mean, I think really the biggest thing that has been, I think it's been contentious on both sides, really, because I always say that I stand for the movement. I don't stand for the organization when it comes to BLM. You know,
Let me pause you there. Because what you just said is what is getting Terry Crews canceled. Because he is saying, I agree with the cause. I have questions for the organization. And there are people who are not okay with that. And I'm one of those people who've been critiqued for having questions regarding the organization. So keep going.
Yeah, I think, and to touch base on that, I think the biggest thing with Terry Crews is that number one, we have to understand he's an actor. He's told what to say. He's not necessarily very articulate and very, I won't say articulate. He's not very on the spot with how he needs to frame things, and I think that that's important because what I believe the movement is and has always started out originated as is just equality because. What that means to me, being a Black American that I live every day, is the fact that I never want to. I can sit here very confidently and say that I do believe that as far as the melting pot, which makes America so great, the melting pot of people from different cultures and races that are here, I believe that, in my personal opinion, that African Americans and Black people of this country have had it historically harder in the building of this country. Now, does that mean that I'm not inclusive to everyone's plight and struggles? That is not the case. I will never think that just because I believe historically that we've had it harder than any race, that I believe I now surpass your cause, or my life is now greater than yours. I will never stand for that. And I will always say that I want to be treated just like I want everyone to be treated, which is equal as an American citizen that has equal consequences to their action and equal justice if there's an injustice done to them. So, but I believe that movement started in a pure sense because of that history of us having such the quote unquote shorter end of the stick. Across this young country's age. I mean, people forget 1776 when we won our independence. We are not an old country. We are very young. We have had time to learn, but it is not ancient history. So I think, but at the same time, I think that I wanted BLM to be that lily pad, that catapult, that catalyst towards an equality movement for all, instead of, it's okay to focus on us for a minute and to address it. But if anyone feels disenfranchised by the system, by any system, I want them to have a platform to speak, and I want their grievances to be heard and handled justly. And I think that the organization has turned it into besides the actual fact that the two of the founders of the organization are trained Marxists. That's a whole other conversation.
We're going to go there. You just opened up Pandora's box. So let's talk about it.
Oh, man.
Keep going, because now we're going to talk about that.
Oh, man. But no, because of that, I can't stand with the organization. I can't support it. I can't, financially or effort wise, because that's not what it's about. You can, anybody can have grievances in this country. But as soon as we start turning it into a paradigm shift, when we start turning it into a us over them kind of situation, I can't support that. Now, do I think that the large majority of BLM supporters are like that? No, I do not. And if I'm wrong, then I will accept that wrongful thinking. But I do not believe that all of BLM is like that. I just think that, considering the people who are running the organization and what they have been trained with and what they do believe, I do believe that is what Terry Crews tried to explain without really being able to say it in such a, in a soft, elegant way. So, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I sit on the whole BLM thing. So with you, I stand by what you say. I think we share a lot of the same opinions on that. I think that as a Black man, I have to come at it a little bit differently because it could be looked as traitorous. And I just think that, those people who may see it that way, they need to understand that I want equality. I don't want better than you or better than anyone. Like I want, if I'm going to be at a certain status or a certain monetary earning or position or anything like that, better than you, is because I earned that within the system that created the opportunity, instead of just being handed something that's better. So that's just,
and I think
that's
that was the key that you said there. It's not that you're being traitorous. It's that you're addressing the framework of the organization and not the origination of the movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
The origination of the movement is a movement towards equity, towards equality, towards a society where we don't have people judged based on the color of their skin. Whereas the organization, as you stated, and I do confirm that there are people who have used the initiation of the movement to establish a framework of an organization that is founded in Marxism.
Yeah.
And if I don't care who you are, I will forever be anti-socialism and anti-Marxism and anti-communism, because I have seen what communism, socialism, Marxism has done to countries. And it's not just Russia, and it's not just China. Go look at Cuba. Go look at Brazil. My family's from Brazil. And I see what those initiatives and those movements have done. Look at Venezuela. The people in Venezuela are literally starving to death. And it's because of the different policies and impacts of socialism in those countries. So what do you think of these trained Marxist founders of BLM? And they have come out, and just for, people who aren't aware, there are certain folks in there who have had interviews, who have had discussions publicly and said, we are trained Marxists. You can Google this and you can find the video. This is not us just making this up.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think that it's just not something that we can support as a country. I mean, I always live by, and people who are going to see this that know me, they know that I live by a rule in my life that it's keep that same energy. So I have to keep that same energy with everything. It's like, if I want equality in the betterment of the system, that doesn't mean to ultimately manipulate something that started out with a righteous cause to topple a system to obtain power through this, what is chaos that has ensued for a short amount of time earlier in the beginning of this. And I don't.
Let me pause you real quick. Can you move your camera up just a little? There we go. Okay.
Yes. Okay, got you. So I can't support that. I can't support that. I have to keep that same energy with everything. So the same reason why I don't believe that, as cliche as it may sound, that the Confederacy was in the right, that's not something that I believe someone should do. I don't believe in the absolute idea of the Confederacy. I don't believe in anything like that. I believe that we are a country, we are Americans. We need to deal with these problems a certain way, in my personal opinion. And obviously everything has its caveats and its extremity, but I believe that to support the BLM organization would be contradictory and counterintuitive to what I want, what I want to live in for the rest of my life, what I want my kids to endure, what I want my grandkids to grow up and see. I think that is a direct conflict towards what the BLM movement started, because you probably can't see it directly on its face, but I feel like that if you were to actually fall down that short rabbit hole or let the dominoes land where they do and actually see it forward, you'll see that it is exactly what you're trying to stop now. and I think that that's the truth of the matter. I just can't support it.
I agree. And, it always sounds nice, right? You look into socialism, and the concept is everybody gets their fair share and everybody works towards the same goal. And that is just not how it works. We don't live in a utopia. We don't live in a perfect world. And the results of what socialism will do to America, if we allow those Marxist ideas to come through, it unfettered, it will be
Mhm.
the destruction of America. I do believe that. And yes, we're an experiment, but we're a successful experiment. And part of that success, in my opinion, is being able to address our faults and grow from them.
Mhm.
Being able to address the fact that we're not perfect. And because we live in a democracy, because we have this republic country, we have the ability to change and make it better. Whereas that would not be an option under these socialist ideals. I agree with you.
Yeah, and I think that what you just said, as far as the, it's almost kind of like the what South Africa had to go through post apartheid. They had to accept what happened, and the
Mm-hmm.
government had to, like, the powers that be had to accept and outwardly show that the of that they know, they acknowledge, and they understand that the wrongdoings of the country, how it was ran, was completely just misguided. And it wasn't through checks in the mail towards black people. It wasn't through reparations. Like, they just stood as a governmental hierarchy and accepted their past discretions, and they needed to move forward. And you can't move forward unless you accept that something was wrong.
Right.
And that's what ties into a lot of my conversations with people who don't necessarily look like me, that whenever these things happen with the police, and these things happen with the racial tensions that brewed underneath those problems, that's what I say is the fact that in order to improve, move forward, to grow, and to correct, you have to acknowledge that there was something that needed to be fixed, or there was a problem, or
Right.
anything like that. And every time that it seems like people that look like me have these conversations, there's always that yeah but aspect to conversations. The yeah but it was so long ago, or the yeah but I didn't own slaves, or the yeah but I have a lot of black friends. It's always that. And it's not so much of, you know okay, I know what happened, but maybe I need to learn more about your perspective. Or, you know what, you're right. What happened is wrong. Do you have, are there ways that you see that we could improve it? Or
Mm-hmm.
do you see, or maybe it could be more of a personal reflection. How do you
Right.
think I can be better? I mean, I've had a lot of people, my neighbor has asked me that. I'm like, a lot of times I'm like, you're a great person. But the reason why so much of this has happened is because it's people that look like you, people that look different than me, are outwardly expressing their disdain towards what happened to George Floyd, or what happened to, what's been happening, Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery. Like,
Right.
these things, the minority can't change the majority of things without the help of the majority. It's fact. It's fact. We have to be unified in the fact that wrong to anyone is just wrong. And if we can just not take it personally, and just understand that things are wrong, and we need to address them on both sides of the aisle, whether you're red or blue, on both sides of the line, whether you're white or black. If wrong's wrong, you accept responsibility for your wrongdoings, and we move forward and grow. But until we do that, and until we stop being so defensive about what side we're on,
Mm-hmm.
we have to, we can't grow.
And I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. The yes buts.
Yeah.
I always say, when you say but, you just erase everything that you said before. Yes, but.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
and also the fact that and I've been a professor for years now, and whenever I did have the opportunity to lecture in the classroom, the hardest moment would be when we'd get to this kind of talk, because people were, one, emotional, and then two, they would take it personally.
Mm-hmm.
They would take it personally if they were a person of color, because it was, something that's still something that we experience today. And then if they weren't a person of color, they would take it personally in that it was almost as if it were an attack on their character.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what the discussion is saying. That's not what the discourse is saying. What the discourse is saying is, this was the reality of our past. We still have effects of that past today, and we can't move forward if we don't address the cause, the effect, and hopefully a better future.
Yeah. I mean, it makes perfect sense logically.
Right.
But I'm emotional because again, I'll tell you I tell everyone that I talk to about this, the one word that seems to trigger, people on the other side of my conversations, particularly white Americans, it's not racist. It's not the R word. It's the S word. It's systemic or systematic, because they automatically presume a little bit of guilt that they think I'm giving them. But the thing is like, I'm not saying you built the system. I'm not saying that you played a part in creating the system. What I'm saying is the fact that it's okay to understand that just the way that I am, that I could not control, I, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm a part of the system in a certain way that it was built in the past. And I mean, I hearken back to any kind of, I don't know, family business. What's the system in that? Your granddad owned it, then he passed it to your dad, and then your dad passed it to you. That's a system of keeping it. Yeah, it's a system of keeping it in the family, right? Well, the same thing can happen to different cultures, creeds, races. I mean, we've seen it happen. I mean, from slavery to Jim Crow to redlining to pretty much the banking frauds that we've had to be a part of, as far as like not being able to have equal lending rights, things like that. Like mass incarceration, which is another form of, in my opinion, slavery, which is a whole other topic. But I mean, again, it shows in our history. But again, we just have to disarm, disarm, and just be like, this is an attack on you. This is just facts that I'm expressing. I mean, I could get upset because I'm a tall black guy. I can get upset every time someone asks me, did you play basketball? If I had a nickel for every time I had that. I mean, but I can't help it because of the system that's been created. There's a bunch of tall black dudes that play basketball. So yeah, it's okay. Like it's something that just becomes a part of the situation. But if you just understand that I'm not coming at anyone personally saying that they're part of the problem. All I'm doing is expressing what I think is the problem. And maybe if I gave you that perspective, you would be a little bit more understanding and vocal in trying to change that, I guess, break the cycle of that system that seems to hold certain people down in a way.
Right. But I think to add to that, one of the things I usually hear whenever we do talk about equality and we're trying to, open the door for everybody to have the opportunities that we would like to see in this country, is the concept that if we give an open door to one group that hasn't been included, it takes away from another group. And that is not, we're not talking about pie. This isn't a piece of pie, and I'm not taking a piece of your pie to give to someone else, right?
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is open a door so that everyone has that opportunity in an equitable manner to have that generational wealth. We're not, and let me rephrase this, I'm not ever saying, you know, shame on you for your generational wealth. Shame on you for, you know, living a life where you had certain level of privileges. Shame on you because you spoke English before I spoke English, because my first language was Portuguese. That's not, you know, that's not the conversation. What the conversation is, it took me a few extra classes for me to understand English and for me to get on the same level as kids who are already learning at a certain level. We wanted to make it equal. We wanted to make it equitable so that we could all grow and have a great life and get education. And that's just, you know, an example of me. So, you know, whenever we mention these concepts, and we do mention a system, I think that people take it to heart as if, well, you're shaming me, you're holding it against me for having these things. And that's not at all what anyone is saying, or let me say what anyone should be saying.
Yeah.
Don't hold it against someone. That's absurd.
And again, I think that the people who are saying that, again, keep that same energy. I think the people who are saying that, they are wrong, and they need to stop with that rhetoric, because again, it's creating a safe space, and it's being able to let them, to not shame them for anything that they have not done. It's just, but it's accepting the truth that maybe you may be on the benefactory side of this system, and I may be on the latter. And I think that, you know, it starts with the youth. I think that if the kids were given the proper resources all across the board in every inner city and every countryside, you know, these small towns, and if kids were able to get the equal resources, I think that we would have less of this, because with resources and education comes more opportunity to do something, to move forward, to make a lateral move, to do other things, which could provide monetary opportunity, which would hinder poverty, which would therefore hinder a lot of crime. And we're going deep. We're going deep.
Snowball.
But yeah, exactly. But you know, people like to think that either something jumps a lot of steps or it never gets to that final step, and that's not the case. I mean, one thing leads to another, and I say, like, you know, these inner cities are hurting. I'm not talking about just Black people. I'm talking about everyone that lives there. They're hurting, and it's because they don't feel the way out, and they feel trapped. But no one can understand that feeling unless you've been there. Right. Unless you've honestly been there. And if you know people that have been there, and you've seen them either get trapped or even make it. The thing is, like, you see what it took to either hold them down, or you see what it took to get them forward, and they're not the same. And I just think that we need to be able to look into those situations and provide more opportunities, so we can teach our kids. Again, this isn't strictly race. Teach our kids that you know, to be better than us, or to be better than the generation before, to move forward, and to continuously learn new things, and to learn from different people. Like, don't incubate yourself in a bubble with people who think the same. You know, don't just watch Fox News, watch CNN. I'm just kidding. But
it's really hard. Telling folks to watch Fox News.
I know, right? It's like, but that Don Lemon. Oh my goodness. But yeah, it's just I think the key is the youth. I think we need to dedicate more resources and more equal opportunity of learning, and equal opportunity to growth to the youth.
And I think on top of that, I just want to add, I think we as adults need to also input a certain level of optimism and a certain level of love for each other, love for our country, just a certain level of positivity that a lot of these kids are not getting, especially because they spend most of their time on social media and regular media, and everything is just so negative 24/7, and everything is so down. And even, you know, if you talk to young kids now, then the way they talk about our country, they just talk about it in such a negative light. But I don't blame them. That's what they're being fed 24/7. I just think that we need to have a certain level of positivity. And yes, we need to address the negative. Yes, we need to address the reality. But we need to have a certain level of optimism for the future of our country through these kids. Otherwise, they're going to grow up hating our country and
Yeah.
not realizing the beauty of this experiment that we've had for the past, you know, 200 plus years, that people die trying to come to America because it is the land of opportunity. And we're not putting that in their minds. We're sitting here arguing with each other as adults, and these kids are watching us and they're falling into the same trap.
Yeah, it perpetuates what the cancel culture you were talking about,
It does.
and the what do they call it, the snippets of the little sound bites that you get from maybe Trump said something stupid or maybe Biden did something creepy, or you know, it's just these little things that we're just kind of like, oh, that's who they are. But it's like, you know, we need to stop trusting so much in and these very leaning one way entities on you know, sharing and giving us information. And we need to do more research on ourselves. And also, I mean, you know, like you said, let's make being good people to each other cool again. I don't think
be nice.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, I take pride in treating people with respect and making sure that they feel comfortable around me. Like I don't know why. I don't know at what point did that become uncool. But I think that's what I think that ultimately that is, like you said, I think that is what's missing in how we're not like taking personal responsibility and sharing that message to any youth that we are around, whether you have a little sister, a little niece, or a child. You know, we're not sharing those messages on, you know, it is a cool thing. It is a good thing to be a good person. You know, to care about someone when you see someone struggling. Yeah.
To say, you know what, you're going to mess up. You're going to say something stupid. You're going to do something stupid. And everybody's going to be mad at you. But guess what? You can still be forgiven and grow to learn from it. Like, you're going to mess up. You're human.
And to give people the opportunity to grow, like give people the opportunity to learn. But then again, like I talk to a lot of, you know, a lot of my personal friends, and we may have started on the wrong side of a conversation on opposite sides, and maybe we reached a more of a medium, or maybe we definitively said that there was no meeting in the middle. But at the end of the day, it's you know, it's the fact that we had that conversation, and I allowed them the opportunity to possibly learn something. Like I didn't take their opinion at face value and say, well, you're just a jerk now because you believe in this, blah, blah. And I want to hear. So why do you think that? Like, you know, I ask more questions. I need to know. I need to better educate myself, because just because I feel like that Black people have had a hard in this country does not mean that I am above learning. I am not above learning. I am not above learning a different perspective. So I need to know what you think, because you may teach me something, and I need to better equip myself to be able to say, okay, you know what? I never saw it that way. And I need to actually look at maybe the way I think and be able to utilize the information you shared with me to better myself. And to, again, I mean, all this is just, to grow and to be able to possibly touch the life of another person that may be feeling a certain way. So, yeah.
I think we're on the same page.
Yes. That's what I was hoping for.
Is there anything else you want to just say before we close our discussion to the Pure Lunacy world, to the world in general? Just a word.
Man, I think, and anyone that's watching this, I think that they're going to understand that, and they may not agree with anything that I said, or they may agree with half of it or whatever, but I think everyone that's going to watch this is going to understand who I am and understand that the next words that are coming out of my mouth is very true. I care about you as a person. I don't want anyone to walk through the small amount of time you have on this earth to feel like you're not worth it. And I think that no matter if you're Black, Hispanic, white, Asian, like, you bring something that the person walking behind you can't, and so on and so forth. And I want you to know that no matter what that is, own it and share the best parts of it and just be completely whole within yourself, because I think that once you do that with yourself, you're able to share that light within you with others, and you never know who you're going to affect in what way by the small interactions you have at every gas station, at every restaurant, that server that may have had a horrible day and maybe they're messing up a little bit, but you just let them know it's okay. And any small little interaction could affect someone. Be a good person, and like me and Cody, one of my best friends, say, like, be better. Just be better. If you messed up, it's okay, man. Just be better. And if we just keep that energy, we keep that mentality, we're going to make it out of this together, or we're going to fall apart separate. And
we're not going to say
that's not a future, and that's not a future we want, and that's not a future we want. So I'm just letting everyone know, no matter how different you may think of me, of anyone or anything, your personal beliefs, just know that, like, you as a human, your life, you're worth it. So don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise.
You guys, you just got to hear one of the most wonderful human beings ever give his insight, give his heart. Let me tell you something. Malcolm has always been this jewel, like, always. That is who he is. His heart is just so beautiful. Oh, can't even compare. Thank you so much, Malcolm.
No problem, sweetheart.
I appreciate it. And
thank you.
Hopefully we'll have you on again once Corona is down and we can, like, meet in person and not be isolated.
I know, right? And then I swear to God, it'll turn into an hour and a half conversation over a bottle of vodka, and then it's gonna be real. It's gonna be on.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Malcolm. We'll see
Thank
you soon.